like walking away like, I'm slow now, I'm slow.
These guys will go through about 200 heads in a summer day.
Wow. It's not even summer though.
Honestly, in the wild, they're going to be eating acacia trees most of the time. So they have a lot of thorns on it. This is like a delicacy. You want some more? Look at you. You're like, yeah, I want some more.
Hello Wolfpack Nation, it's Chancellor Randy Woodson with you again for another edition of Red Chair Chats. Today we've taken the red chairs on the road to the North Carolina Zoo, and boy do we have a treat for you today. You all know Red Chair Chats is where we get together with alumni and friends and others from the university that love NC State and share stories about their affection for this great university. So today, as I said, you're in for a big treat. We've got the head dude for taking care of all of these animals, over, oh gosh, 1,700 animals and 200 and I don't know how many species, but this is a big place, and today we've got Dr. J.B. Mentor with us today, a 2008 graduate from our College of Veterinary Medicine. And so, JB, it's great to be with you today.
Thank you, Randy. It's great to be here.
Well, we're really thrilled, and thank you for letting me bring my grandkids, because they're somewhere having a big time.
I was going to say, it's a beautiful day.
Well, let's talk about what it's like to take care of. As I understand it, the North Carolina Zoo is the largest natural habitat zoo in the world.
So we are about 2,600 acres of beautiful North Carolina Piedmont. Rolling right up next to us is the Uwharrie National Forest. So we're a beautiful large park. It's all walking. You're not going to get, obviously there's trams to move you around the park a little bit, but we're a large park. Only about 500 of that, a little bit over 500 of that is actually developed out for the guest experience. That 500 acres includes lots of pathways. It includes animal habitats. And we're now really starting to expand into our nature trails, so that you're not even in the park itself. It's just hiking in the woods.
Wow.
So it is a beautiful park. It's one of the reasons that keeps bringing me back to North Carolina, honestly. So yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Well, let's talk about that experience. You said back to North Carolina. You're a Virginia Tech grad.
I am.
Fine land-grant university, animal science major, as I recall.
That is correct.
Went off to study in Utah for a wildlife biology degree.
I did.
And then came to NC State for your veterinary medicine degree.
I did.
And did you always want to be a zoo vet, or did you start out thinking you were going to work on Fluffy and Muffy?
So honestly, when I went to Virginia Tech, I thought I was going to do Fluffy and Muffy.
Yeah.
I thought small animal medicine. That was my experience. That was my understanding. And then I went to Virginia Tech. I went into animal science. I grew up on the beach of North Carolina or Virginia. Okay. So I grew up very close to the beach. We didn't have cows. We didn't have horses. We didn't have that type of thing. At least where I was growing up. And I was like, oh, I really like large animal. And as you should do in college, I kind of branched out, did a lot of different things, took a few different classes and majors outside my own, and I started taking some classes in wildlife biology. And I was like, well, this is pretty fun. I really like this as well. So I decided I'm going to apply to vet school, and I got into Virginia Tech. And being young and cocky, and a little bit stupid, I opted not to go. I said, you know what, I'm going to move out to Utah. I'm going to be a lifty. I'm going to go skiing.
What is a lifty?
Oh yeah, I love to ski at the same time. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna run the lifts somewhere out in Utah. I'm gonna take a gap year, as they're calling it now. So I went out there and I met an individual that was a professor at Utah State, and he said, you should come do a graduate degree with me. He's like, I've got some work. I've got a project. I'm gonna fund you, and you come out and do this. And I was like, sure, this sounds like great. Keeps me in Utah for a couple more years.
Yeah, so you could continue being a lifty.
Well, actually, I had to give up that job a little bit because most of my field season was in the winter. But so I stayed there, and I did my master's in wildlife biology with an emphasis in I was doing reproductive physiology. I was basically trying to figure out how to contracept coyotes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not every day we think about birth control with coyotes. But
and that stems from the fact that Obviously, coyotes are, if you ask a lot of people, they're very divisive animals. So some people really, really dislike coyotes. And there was some information that came out that if they weren't provisioning for pups, they'd be less likely to kill your goats and your sheep. So if you could prevent them from having babies, they could live on your farm and obviously not be a predator for the animals that you were in theory raising.
Not a typical master's thesis project.
No, not really. But again, it was good work. I got to stick around. After that, I was considering, okay, maybe I'll do a PhD in wildlife biology and do something else. And my advisor was who had a PhD and DVM said, nope, you should go get your DVM. You'll be more marketable. And he said, go to NC State.
There we go.
So
all the way out in Utah.
So
singing our praises.
Yep. So he said, go to NC State. That is where you should go. They have one of the most premier wildlife and zoological programs, focus areas at their College of Veterinary Medicine. You need to go there. I know I have several contacts there. You should get involved with them. Do that. So I was like, okay. I mean, he was my advisor. He was the one that was giving me advice at the time. And so I moved to North Carolina. Now, I will not tell you where I worked briefly. They're powder blue.
UCLA?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I worked at UNC's in a neuroscience lab at North Carolina, Chapel Hill, for a year while I gained some in-state residency. I applied to veterinary school, got in, and it kind of blossomed from there.
Well, you know, I was looking at your CV and what you do, and I have to believe you have about the coolest job in North Carolina, unless it's being Chancellor of NC State. I mean, to be clear, but it's a pretty cool job. So talk about what a typical day is when you've got 70 or 80 keepers or caregivers for animals here.
Yep.
You've got 250 species of animals and 1,700, everything from butterflies to elephants.
That is a true story.
Talk about a typical day in the life of J.B. Minter.
So the great thing about having this job and doing what I do is there's no real typical day. Yeah. And that's what honestly, that's what drove me into zoological medicine. You talked about Muffy and Fluffy and doing that. Those days are very similar, day to day. But here, I never know what I'm gonna see every day. So the only thing I can tell you that is similar every day is that I round with my staff, we talk about the cases that are gonna happen. And again, I may be seeing an elephant in the morning, I may be going to look at a cockroach in the afternoon. Again, you don't think about that, do you? I mean, about a year ago, I spayed a cockroach.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a minute to reflect. Spayed a cockroach. Okay.
Yep.
That's a small surgery.
It is a small surgery, but a surgery that I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So we ended up talking to a bunch of entomologists out of NC State and trying to figure out, hey, what does the reproductive tract of a cockroach even look like? She had prolapsed something that needed to be fixed, and I was like, well, if we just take it away.
Prolapse? Okay,
so
I'm good.
It was sticking out.
Okay, there we go.
It should have been inside and it was outside.
Yeah, that's a hernia. I'm with you now.
So we were like, we need to address this. And people look at me like, why didn't you it's a cockroach. And I was like, well, every animal here deserves the same level of care. Be it a cockroach, be it an elephant, they all deserve what I can give them. And sometimes that's spaying them. And just sometimes, you never know. So again, that's one of the wonderful things about this job is nothing is the same. It's always different.
And you talked about you reached out to entomologists at NC State. Talk about that relationship, because I know this zoo and your role in the zoo is very important to keeping connected. And you interned here, or you worked here as a student at NC State. So talk about the relationship.
So this relationship is long-standing. I mean, if you go back far enough, the first dean of the vet school, Terrence Curtin, if I'm not mistaken, hired Michael Stoskoff. And Michael Stoskoff was hired to really develop out the zoological kind of focus area within NC State. Shortly after he was hired, he hired his wife, Suzanne Kennedy Stoskoff. And then right after that, they made that connection with my predecessor, Dr. Mike Loomis. Mike Loomis was the chief veterinarian for the North Carolina Zoo for over 30 years.
Wow.
So they developed that, and the three of them kind of sat down and said, what are we going to do here? How can we make things better for wildlife? And how do you make things better for wildlife? is you put more people out there, you train people that care about wildlife as much as you do. Yeah. So the three of them sat together and they said, let's start a program. Let's start a residency program. The American College of Zoological Medicine, relatively new at that time. The residency that we started here, they started at North Carolina State and North Carolina Zoo, was the first accredited 3-year program in the American College of Zoological Medicine.
And that's a level of board certification.
That is a board certification. So when you go through that program, it's additional training after vet school.
Okay.
And at the end, you become a board certified zoological medicine specialist. So they developed this program. That program has expanded. From the three of them, there are now 11 of us. Between NC State, the College of Veterinary Medicine, the North Carolina Zoo, and we now incorporate all three of the aquariums along the coast. So that program has just grown exponentially. So my connection, obviously you said I did my residency here with North Carolina State and the North Carolina Zoo. So I have that kind of built-in connection with the residency program. Michael Stoskoff, Suzanne Kennedy Stoskoff, and Michael Loomis all trained me. So I was trained by those people that founded that program. So that connection between our institutions, between the North Carolina Zoo and NC State, is long lasting. And with me in this position, I don't plan on going anywhere. I plan on retiring here at the North Carolina Zoo, and which means we will just continue to develop that relationship and kind of just flourish that.
Well, you know, I think about your job, and I think about zoological medicine, and you think about a human medical doctor, they really have to worry about one species. It must be a real challenge to think about providing care, and you, earlier in our discussion, you talked about equal care, regardless of whether it's a cockroach or a very valuable, African elephant. How do you train to understand the physiology, anatomy, and chemistry and biochemistry of so many different species?
So you can ask that question.
Big books, I'm sure.
Yeah, lots and lots of big books. So when you think about human medicine, and I mean, there's some jokes that we could tell about MDs, and how they only treat one species.
Talking a little smack now here, you know.
But when you think about the amount of knowledge that's out there, the body of literature, it's immense because there is so much work that's being done in human medicine. Now you take a subset of that and say, okay, this is what we know about veterinary medicine. It's large, but nowhere near as large as human medicine. Now you take even a smaller subset of that literature and say, how much of that is about zoological species? And it's pretty small. Now it's growing exponentially. It has been for the last decade. It continues to grow. But when you say, how do you know how to treat all of these different species, what you have to be able to do is take a leap of faith. So obviously I was trained.
Well, spaying a cockroach, that's a leap of faith.
That is a leap of faith. So I was trained by extremely smart individuals at NC State, but most of that coursework is about your what I would call domesticated or companion animals, dogs and cats, horses, cows, sheep, goats, pigs, things of that nature. We get a little bit, because it's NC State and we have a pretty good zoological program, we learn a little bit about your birds, we learn a little bit about reptiles and things of that nature, but really we don't learn about things that you see at the zoo. So you don't learn about tigers, you don't learn about elephants or rhinos. So what you have to do is you have to start thinking about this. What evolutionary shares that same pathway? So we were talking just briefly about a gazelle, a Thomson gazelle. And I have to say, well, there's not a lot of information about Thomson gazelles, but what is evolutionarily similar to that? A cow. So we have.
Are they ruminants?
They are both, Thomson gazelle is a ruminant. So again, you take that information that you know and you make really strong educated guesses about the healthcare, the treatment regimes, and what you may do for a Thomson gazelle that you would for a cow. But all these different species have their own little unique quirks, their own little unique health issues. So you do have to understand a little bit about that.
JB, one of the things that I think you know that we've had a really challenging year last year at NC State with our student mental health and wellness, and one of the things that was a real bright spot for our students, they had a trip to the zoo.
Yeah.
And this year, my understanding is that our health and wellness group has partnered with the North Carolina Zoo for our students, again, during Wellness Day, to have a tromp to the zoo.
Yeah.
And coming out here next spring. So talk a little bit about what this zoo and what our connection with animals, what it really can mean for all of our mental health, and how the zoo plays such an important role in reconnecting all of us back to nature and understanding the human-animal bond.
So, look behind us. I mean,
Yeah.
this zoo, I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier the expanse of this zoo. 500 acres developed out. So, I always like to say when you come to the North Carolina Zoo, you are walking in the woods and you just happen to see a couple African and North American animals scattered throughout.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful park. And people way smarter than me have looked at the benefits, both physical and mental aspects of being out in nature. So obviously walking around, this is a lot of parks, so you're going to be walking a lot. So that physical activity is going to be good for you. But just being out in nature has been shown to be beneficial not only to reducing depression, but it's good for anxiety, it's good for stress relief. I read a paper probably about 6 months ago that looked at the resilience. If you spend a lot more time in nature, you have more resilience to stressful events.
Wow.
So if you're exposed to those stressful events, you reset yourself a lot better if you've been exposed to nature. And they went into talking about fractals and all types of really cool individual things about being out in nature. But this park, when you come out here, again, you're kind of immersed in it. And not only are you seeing the animals and developing environmental awareness, empathy for animals that are kind of in human care, but you're also learning about conservation. And we're trying to kind of impart that on you so that you understand the importance of that and how that's going to help future generations. But it also, for the kids at NC State, it gets you out of your dorm room. It gets you exposed to people. Hopefully bringing you out here, you're going to come out here with friends or family, builds that bond. I mean, I hate to see it that more and more kids are spending more time on social media and not engaging with people one-on-one.
This is a different kind of social media.
This is a different kind of social media.
One that, well, thank you for the partnership and
Oh, yes.
for opening the zoo to our students. But also, you know, thank the people of North Carolina.
Yeah,
This zoo is celebrating in 2024 50 years.
that is a true story.
And that's a testament to the leadership of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, recently I know you and your colleagues here at the zoo are really proud that the legislature funded to create the Asian exhibit,
Yes.
which is under construction now.
Sure is.
So they continue to invest in this zoo, largely because they know the benefit that it brings to the citizens of the state. And thank you for your leadership in helping to do that.
Thank you, sir.
You've got a lot of different species and a lot of animals here. Do you have a favorite? I mean,
yeah.
You're
Oh,
not
yeah.
supposed to pick
Oh,
one.
I know I do.
My grandkids are here and I can't.
Don't pick one.
Yeah, no. Okay.
You're on film.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely have a favorite. My favorite is a female chimpanzee named Tammy.
Oh, Tammy.
Yeah. So,
How did Tammy win your heart?
well, initially she, so in my residency, Tammy hated me. She would spit at me.
Yeah.
She'd see me. And
We've all had this
Yeah,
experience.
we did. And it became my mission to change that. So during my residency, I would go down to the cat-chimp building, which is where they house them at nighttime, and I would go down there and spend time with her. And like I said, I'd buy my love. I'd bring mints. I'd bring treats.
Mints.
It's
always
always something.
Thinking flowers, but you know.
No,
this is
she
good.
wants something tasty.
Okay.
So I would bring different food items and I would engage with her and work on behaviors and things of that nature, just so she would see me as somebody that she did not hate. And this took a long time, but at the end of that residency, she no longer spit on me.
Yeah.
And she actually had a fondness. When I would come down, she would like, well, that's the guy that gives me mints.
Yeah. There we
And
go.
I came back as an associate veterinarian a couple years later and continue that. I now continue to go down and visit with her. Have nothing to do medically down there at that building. I just come to say hello.
Yeah.
When I go in the front of the building and basically where the guests are, she'll see me. She'll pop her head up, and oftentimes she will walk over to me.
Well, JB, you stand out. You're a good-looking guy.
Well,
You know,
it's the lack of hair
well,
and the blueness, but she knows who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, she comes up and she'll what we call fist bump. She'll come up and push her hand on the glass, and she'll let me know that she's there. And then oftentimes she'll go back and lay
How
back
old
in her
is
hammock.
Tammy?
She is just over 50.
Wow.
So the thing to me is that I realize that she doesn't have a lot longer left.
Yeah.
And that's where obviously part of my job is obviously I mean I get to do some really cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I also get to see a lot of these animals because they are shorter lived than I am.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these animals will die in my care. And it's that human-animal bond, and again, especially when you develop that type of relationship with a chimp or an animal, it's, you watch them, some of them, I watch these animals grow from neonates all the way up to geriatric, and then they pass away. So that's hard.
Well, I thought it was going to be Mr. and Ms. Wolf, you know, as your favorite. They, you know, they're mine. You got any treatment regime for, I mean, Mr. and Ms. Wolf were worn out after a big weekend of athletics. They had a big basketball game, you know, that was, so anyway, you may have to come and give some care.
Give some care to them.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I would say is that you got to make sure they stay on the preventative health program. Make sure they stay healthy.
Oh, yeah.
So after those long weekends, make sure they get some rest. Make sure you're feeding them a good diet. So yeah, just keep them on that good preventative health program, just like you and I. We got to go to the vet.
Oh, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Well, this has been great,
Yeah.
JB. Thank you so much for talking with us today and talking about the relationship between NC State and the North Carolina Zoo. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
And very proud that you got to come back to North Carolina.
I keep coming back.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this time to stay for a long time.
That's the plan.
All right. And Wolfpack Nation, thanks for joining us for another edition of Red Chair Chats. Go Pack.
So we're out here, we're actually on our giraffe deck. This is actually a very hot spot in the summertime. This place is lined up all the way out there where obviously our giraffes come up. We've got Jack and Turbo. These are two of our biggest eaters. They're generally going to be occupying this space during the summertime. And as your grandkids are noticing, they really like lettuce.
They love lettuce.
I wonder why they like lettuce. Like
Why they like lettuce?
Yeah, it's a source of
Wow.
Well, they like leaves. So these guys are going to be herbivorous, so they're going to be eating a lot of leaves. Honestly, in the wild, they're going to be eating acacia trees most of the time. So they have a lot of thorns on it. This is like a delicacy. So honestly, this is just a really good guest
It's a great place for kids.
So,
and
the kids love it up here. Again, that's making that connection with obviously getting that close to a wild animal. There's nothing greater than that. And again, this is winning hearts for animals right here. This is what we're doing. Again, kind of educating people and getting them that up close and personal experience so they know what we're doing.
Well, the grandkids are having a great time.
There you go. You want that?
Good job, Delilah. Thanks, David.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm okay.